G'day everyone, Be Asian Dad here. Today we're going to do the review of the Dell Latitude 7300. Now this is a 13.3 inch business laptop, so it's made quite rugged, so it can take a fair bit of beating. And before we get started, I do want to make a shout out to the Dell ANZ team. Now without them, this review wouldn't be possible there. The 7300 houses an 8th generation Intel processor. You can get an i5 or an i7 version in this notebook, and they are 4 cores there. Now, as for RAM wise, it is actually quite surprising. It is one of their main points. It can go up to 32 gigs of RAM, and there are 2 RAM slots for it, so you can actually upgrade it later on, or you can actually service them, which is fantastic there. Now, with the hard drive, it can go up to 1 terabyte of SSD. It does have a PCMi slot, and it runs off the M.2 format there. So you can upgrade it or replace it later on as well too, which is fantastic. Now as for the graphics, it only runs an integrated Intel 620 graphics. So that's the weakest point of it. There is no discrete graphics option there. So screen wise, there's a few flavors there. So the first option is a HD option, which is a low power mode one, and that runs at 220 nits of brightness, and it has no touch. Now with full HD, there's a few options there. So let's start off with the non-touch one, and that runs at 300 nits of brightness, and again it will be a matte screen base there. And there is a multi-touch version of it, and that runs at 255 nits of brightness. And then you've got a privacy guard one. Now what the privacy guard one is basically just limiting your viewing angle to a pretty narrow sort of viewing angle there. It's really mostly for the user to show, and other people can't really see if they're right next to you. So if you're on passenger, they won't be able to see next to you. Now that runs at 300 nits of brightness, and there is no touch for that one neither. Now the version I have here is the touch version, and it's got a nice matte feel to it, and it's quite nice, and you can actually feel it. I find it very nice to actually glide over, and it's got a very nice good viewing angle, so I've never had a problem with that. And the brightness, even though it's 255 nits of brightness in the broad daylight, it could do a little bit better, but you can still see without any issues there. So let's have a look at the ports here. Look on the right hand side, we've got the audio combo jack, we've got the micro SD card reader. Underneath that is the optional SIM card slot. We also have a USB 3.1 Gen 1, and this also does power share as well. And then right after that is the Noble Wedge port as well, so it's security. And then along the back, it is pretty much clean of any ports here. And along the left hand side here, we have the AC barrel port where you plug in the power. You have a USB-C port. Now this one is the Thunderbolt enabled version, and it is 4 lanes as well. And if it's the USB-C, it will be Gen 1. Now we've got the HDMI 1.4A port, and we've got another USB 3.1 port as Gen 1 as well. Pretty much if you've got also the optional smart card slot, this is where it would sit. This particular model doesn't have it. And along the front end, we are pretty much clean of any ports besides the diagnostic lights on the front there. Now Dell has put in a 720p webcam on there, and they do have a privacy shutter there, which is fantastic. And it's just a matter of just giving a nice little flick, and you'll see it go red, which actually disables the webcam there, so you won't have any problem with people spying you or just worried about it accidentally turned on. As for the keyboard wise, it's actually quite nice. I find this one a little bit more redefined than the previous generation. I find each key is a little bit more spaced, a little bit better than the previous generation, and it's got a bit of a more smoother feel to it. As for the key travel wise, it's still quite very good. It's got a fair bit of it, and it's got a little bit of a tactile feel to it, which is great. You can be happily typing away at this as well. Plus being a business laptop, it is actually quite rugged, so it can take a fair bit of beating, and of course a little bit of spills, but I don't recommend the spills, but you can take a little bit of that, I think, as well. Now it does have 3 backlight settings for the keyboard. You've got off, low and high, which is great. And as for the trackpad, it's got a decent size to it. And as for the feel of the trackpad, it's actually got a bit of a rougher, smooth feel to it. It's contradictory, but it's got a nice little feel to it. And if you've got a bit of sweating fingers, it'll still be able to quite easily register it, no problems at all. And it's nice to see that Dell's still got 2 mechanical buttons for your left and right mouse clicks there as well too. The speakers are located on the bottom side of the laptop. You have 2 of them, which are 2 watts each. And when I did the sound testing of the computer, how loud it can be, it managed to peak at 99 decibels. So that's actually pretty loud speakers there. Now as for the sound quality, it actually surprised me. It had a little bit of bassy sound to it. It's not a crazy amount of bass, but for 2 watt speakers, it's got a little bit of bassy there, and it wasn't too tinny neither. And for when it goes to the very loud there, it didn't distort really badly. So it actually does pretty good for some speakers. Now as for the feel wise, I have the carbon fiber version of here right now. So it's actually carbon fiber in the top end, and at the back end you've still got the plastic there. And it's actually quite durable plastic there. Now they do come in an aluminium version there, and I'm just going to bring in a 7400 here because it's aluminium finish, so you can actually see the aluminium finish. It will be replicated on the 7300 as well too. So again, it'll be aluminium finish, and again it will be a plastic sort of backing there for the bottom part there. So and again, it's quite durable there too as well too. Now as for the weight of this laptop, now the carbon fiber version looking at 1.24 kilograms, and the aluminium version looking at 1.3 kilograms. So it's quite light there, and it's quite nice. They've still got all the ports there, even with that kind of weight there. The computer does come with a 65 watt power supply. It's quite small, so it's nice to travel with as well. And it does support rapid charge. What that means is you can charge the battery from 0 to 80% in 1 hour's time. Now you'll find to charge the battery from 0 to 100%, you're looking at around just under 2 hours there. So there are 2 flavors of the battery, and you can get a 3-cell battery, which is rated at 42 watt hours, and there's also a 4-cell battery, which is rated at 60 watt hours. Now this particular unit I have here is a 60 watt hour version, and when I did my battery tests for the battery life, with the performance mode, with everything set to the max and pulled at performance, it managed to pull just over 2 hours for the battery there. Now as for the power mode, I managed to pull 7 hours and 40 minutes, which is pretty decent there. And as for the power saving mode, when everything's set to its maximum power saving, I managed to pull 9 hours there. So it's pretty decent there. Now I find the battery life of the Latitude 7300 a lot better than the Latitude 7400. Let's have a look at how easy it is to lift the lid unassisted. It's actually quite easy there, very easy. So I'm just going to do a quick comparison of the pure size of the 7300 versus the 7400, which is a 14-inch. So the 7300 here, and I've got a 7400 right here there, so you can actually see the actual footprint size there. So it is a little bit smaller than the 14-inch, as you can see, but as for actual side there, I've got the 7400 on the left and the 7300 on the right, and they look to be pretty much flush, so the thickness is about the same. And as for the weight wise, it's pretty much, the 7400 of course is a little bit more heavier, probably about 100 grams than the 7300 there. The Latitude 7300 is excellent to be paired with the WD-19 dock and the WD-19TB dock. Now just make sure you've got the Thunderbolt enabled chip for it to connect to the WD-19TB. And if you're on the run, it is also excellent to be paired with the adapters of the DA300 and the DA200 adapters from Dell. Now I've done a review on each of these products you see, so I'll put a link in the description below for you to check out if you wish to do so. The WD-19 or WD-19TB dock, I have ran 3 external screens using those dock with the Latitude 7300, and surprisingly I find the Latitude 7300 running the 3 screens a lot more quieter, and when the actual fan speed when it's using average use, than the Latitude 7400, which actually likes to spin up its fan a lot more when it's actually running 3 external screens. So this is doing extremely well, but I actually do like this a lot more as well. We're going to color calibrate the screen with the Spider 3 Pro. Now I've had this Spider 3 Pro for a fair number of years and it's been pretty trustworthy, hasn't missed a beat. So now the calibration process is finished. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of factory. So before calibration and after calibration. Before calibration, after calibration. Before calibration, as you can, for my eyes, I can see that it's a little bit more greener in tinge and it's a little bit more cooler. And after calibration, it warms up a little bit and also it's gone a little bit more magenta as well. Now, if you find this test very useful, put a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. When I did the performance and stress test of this computer, I did take note of the heat of this computer and how loud it was as well, and plus where the actual heat was as well too. Now my testing method was I just downloaded a decibel app for my mobile phone and placed it about 10 centimeters away and took a measurement there, and also I just used a food thermometer. That's kind of all I've got, and I placed it where the most heat I found and I let it probably equalize after 5 or so minutes. Now I did run the testers for about 2 hours before I did take the measurement, so it let it actually get quite heated up there. Now where I find the heat and also where the sound came from was actually quite interesting on this computer here. Now the actual hot area of this computer is actually all along the top end of the keyboard there, and when we go through the internals you actually understand where all this heat is coming from. But where that max really hot areas is between the 2, 4, F and S key, that group bunch of keys there, which is actually where the CPU probably is sitting, and you'll see the heat pipe along there, and the actual exhaust fan is sitting around about where the F11 to F12 function keys are. So that's actually where the exhaust fan is actually sitting. So, and it's actually behind the hinge of this screen here there. So that's where the sound comes from. So you actually hear a little bit of the echo sound of the actual computer when it's actually have the fan spinning up, but a lot of the heat is actually sitting around on the left hand side of the computer. Now there's also another surprising area where actually you find some heat, and that's when I'm doing the stress test for the hard drive as well too. It's actually along the left hand side along here. So when your palm is sitting, the left hand palm is sitting on here, you will feel a little bit of warmness to there because that's where the actual hard drive is actually sitting there. And if you're not stretching the computer like I am, you actually feel a little bit of warmness there. It won't annoy you, but it's something to take note of as well too. Now with the CPU dial up to 100% level at its maximum capability, put my food thermometer at the W and E key and took a measurement, and it came at 41 degrees Celsius, and my mobile phone decibel meter read at 60 decibels. So it is decently loud for the actual sound of the fan, but it's a low sort of whine to it rather than a high-pitched whine, so it's actually quite bearable there. Now I did take another measurement where the palm is, where the actual SSD hard drive is located, and it measured at 39 degrees Celsius as well. Now all this is at room temperature at 20 degrees Celsius, and the other thing I like to make note of was actually where the bottom part of the area of the computer was, and I took a measurement of that as well, and that was reading about 40.4 degrees Celsius. So don't try and put this on your lap, you definitely will feel this. Actually, in any sort of laptops, try not to put it on your lap these days anyway. These do have a fair bit of thermal expenditure, and they do get quite hot actually. Any laptop actually gets quite hot when you're actually running at maximum speed, so don't try and actually put these on laptops. Put it either a table or put a book on before, then you'll put that computer on the top end. If you're a user of the laptops, tell me about that. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are or what your solutions to these things is, but definitely do not try and put laptops in your lap. So with the CPU running at 5 to 15%, so this is your sort of average use. So you're either doing web surfing, you're doing a bit of streaming, you're doing some desktop application publishing, you're looking at with the W and E key, you're looking at 28 degrees Celsius, and my decibel meter read at 46 decibel. So it's actually quite quiet when it's actually running, and it's actually not that crazy hot when you're doing your average use. So it's actually a decent computer to work off when you're actually doing some normal sort of type of work. without having to push the computer at its maximum capabilities. So let's have a look at the internals of a Latitude 7300. I've just taken off the back cover. It's just made of a few screws. You just unscrew and then it will come off after a little bit of prying. It's pretty easy to come off. It's great for servicing. So on the bottom right hand corner here we have the SSD hard drive, which you can upgrade or replace, and it's just a matter of taking off these two screws here for the PCMI E M.2 format, and then right above there is the two DIMM slots for the RAM, and these are pretty easy to take out. It's just a matter of just unhooking these two and then pop it out and then just slip it back in quickly, easy. Make sure it's in the angle, slip it back in, give it a little push, and then you hear it click pretty easy, nice and easy. Then we've got the heat pipe here that goes to the fan. I'm taking this, the CPU is right down here. And then we've got the WAN card here, which this particular model doesn't have opt-in in, but that would be where it sits. We've got the Wi-Fi card, which is sitting here. It's just a matter of holding by one screw, and it'll take out pretty easy. Got the CMOS battery sitting underneath here as well. And of course we've got the battery. Now the battery can be removed. They've made it easy by having a nice little lever system here. So if you just need to disconnect it to solve some power issues, it's a very easy, just pull that one there, and then you can just wait for it to drain the power or do anything to do diagnostics. But if you just remove it, I've just made of these two screws here. I've actually unscrewed them already, and then you can just take that out. Now as you can see down here, right here is where this smart card reader is. At the moment, this particular model doesn't have it opt-in, but that's where it would sit. I do enjoy the Latitude 7300, and I will make a video of the Latitude 7300 versus the 13-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar. So be sure to check that out. I will put the link in the description below when that is available, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. If you find this video informative or enjoyed it, give it a like, and if you haven't done already, subscribe to the channel by hitting that subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner. I do try to upload a new video every Tuesdays and Fridays. And just remember, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. I'll see you next video.